Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Carrie Linklater, and I am your chairperson this morning, and I am joined by Ms. Lori Davidson and Mr. Richard Whitbread. Our city assessor this morning is Mr. Merrick Froelich, and our administrative personnel is Nicole Carnegie. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note that you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property, and once your hearing is concluded, you can leave the hearing. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparison of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. And as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. And this morning, we will be hearing items 2 and then 7 through 10 on the docket. And Ms. Carnegie, if you could please confirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony.
Thank you. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Merrick Froelich.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Ayrton Neufeld.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Neufeld and Mr. Froelich. And we are going to 559 Messier Street. And Mr. Froelich, whenever you would like to begin.
Sure thing. Thank you, Lady Chairperson. File number is 22-44-89. Business roll number is 3046. The initial annual rental value is $444,060 based on 74,556 square feet with an overall ARV of 596. As you go through the property here, this property's been on appeal the past 3 cycles, 2018, 2020, and 2023. And during the realty appeals, there's been a discrepancy on how the areas are broken down between what the assessor has and what the agent has presented. Ayrton and I want to schedule an inspection for this property before this hearing, but unfortunately, we ran out of time, or just the workload's just very intense these days, so we didn't get an opportunity to inspect it. So I had spoken with Mr. Neufeld with regards to my concerns with regards to the areas that we have for occupancy. So in the short term, I'm making a recommendation to reduce the value to $390,960 for the 2023 appeal, and the agent and the assessor will inspect the property in the near future to update the occupancy areas. Property will be appealed at a higher level court so we can update and correct information. So I'd like to recommend a value of $390,960.
All right, I thank you. Mr. Neufeld?
Yeah, I don't have any paperwork on that. Like, what are the areas being applied? Rocky told me absolutely nothing, and I never really got any information out of that conversation.
So, Erica, do you have my brief in front of you right now?
No, I never got it.
Okay.
Okay, the briefs were sent to Rocky along with the Zoom link. Did you want me to send those over to you now, Ayrton?
Yeah, please. The email that was on the appeal form, it would be great.
Is that the one you just used to
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just give me a second and I'll send those over. It's on its way. You should have it momentarily.
Thank you.
Do you have it yet, Ayrton?
No, nothing.
Okay.
Maybe just try to refresh.
Yeah, I have been. I got that.
Sometimes there's a bit of a delay when we're sending them from our laptops here. I'll try sending it from a different email as well and see if that makes a difference.
Sure, yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
And it's wpg.appeals@colliers.com.
Yeah, oh, there, just shut up.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, I got it. I mean, I guess my question still is, it doesn't really explain like what areas applied for the recommendation.
Oh, all I did, Ayrton, was initially if you look at the two areas, the one area at 10,275 and the 52,030, the initial rents for those are 507 and 539. So for the recommendation, just to ensure that you got your filing feedback and to update the records, is I dropped those rents to 475, which is a bit higher than the board decision, I believe. And then moving forward from there, once we do the inspection, then we could update all the occupancy costs as well. Because during the hearing, and this is my question that I had at the time, was that on your brief, you have two areas at 26,000 you have 26,500 square feet using a $6 rent. So to me, that would tell me that that should be a higher quality rent and finish. So that's where I think that one of the errors that we have with regards to the occupancy costs. So I need to do an inspection of this property. So when I sent the email to your father last Friday, we spoke about it and we talked about this would be a short-term solution for right now. And then we would address this issue at the municipal board.
Okay, well, I mean, I would rather have dealt with this at the hearing today.
Well, if we would have had an inspection, Ayrton, then we could have dealt with it. But I wasn't comfortable with making a cut without doing an inspection on the property. So if you have, so that's where we're at right now. So I'm sorry if I've inconvenienced you.
Yeah, okay.
Your father seemed to agree with us. So
he had no idea what you were talking about.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought I explained it in the email.
Yeah, he hasn't reviewed this. I was handling all this. I'm not really sure why.
Okay. Well, you know what? We could the secretary has the information on file with regards to the email and the communication that I sent to the board of revision, and your father said yes, we concur. So maybe for your information, Erican,
No, I just think, I mean, we had a realty decision here and we're just asking for it to follow through, and we're having the costs confirmed that are already on the assessment. So I feel like this can be resolved now and we can still inspect it. If there's an issue, we can fix it then.
I'm not prepared to do that.
Okay, well, that's what I would be requesting.
Okay, so gentlemen, then we're just going to proceed with this and hear both sides.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Neufeld. Okay, so Mr. Froelich?
Yes.
Did you have anything else to add?
No, I have nothing else to provide. That's I wasn't
Okay.
going to follow through without doing an inspection of the property. I created a short-term situation here to make both parties happy. And so that's where I'm at right now.
All right, I thank you. Okay, so Mr. Neufeld, do you have any questions in regards to Mr. Froelich's brief?
No, I think I've asked them. That's great. Thank you.
All right, I thank you. And Ms. Davidson, did you have any questions for Mr. Froelich?
I just wanted to confirm what you had said. So you basically reduced the two rents on the 52,000 square foot and the 10,000 down to 475 from 539 and 507, and left the occupancy costs the same.
Yeah, exactly. And then once I'm able to do an inspection on it, then I can do a further reduction.
Okay.
But we have nothing on file right now, and I didn't feel comfortable with making a recommendation lower than what I had done without a full inspection. And I have documentation showing that Eric and I were trying to coordinate an inspection on this, but just due to the workload, we weren't able to coordinate a time.
And so with your recommendation, is it correct that you and the applicant are 9,270 apart on the ARV, or 2.4%?
So I don't have the applicant's brief in front of me right now. So where did you get? Okay, so I'm making a cut from 444 to 390. So I didn't do the percentage there. So just give me a sec here.
No, I was asking whether the applicant's ARV and your revised recommended ARV, like, I was just trying to confirm whether they're 9,270 different or 2.4% different. Like,
Yeah.
Closer together, correct?
Okay. Sorry,
That's okay.
I don't under so what I'm doing 390 860 divided by 0. Sorry. 390 60 divided by 0.60. So I'm making a 12% reduction right now from the assessed value, and not knowing where the occupancy costs are at, because I'm not confident with the information that we have on file. So there is a 12% cut being offered today.
Okay, so maybe I'll ask the applicant, like, I was I appreciate that, but I was looking, by bringing it down 12%, it looks like you brought it really close to what the applicant's ARV is in their submission. But I can wait.
Well, I never received the applicant submission.
Oh,
Maybe
I'm sorry.
maybe I did and I missed it. Okay, I do apologize.
No, that's okay. I'll just wait.
Could I get it resent to me, please? If there's applicant's briefs on file, because I don't have the applicant's brief in front of me. And maybe I received it, then I didn't print it off because I didn't think this was going to be that complicated. So I apologize.
Okay, let me just get it over to you right away.
Okay, I'm just going to proceed. Mr. Whitbread, did you have any questions?
Just a clarification, Mr. Froelich, I see two addresses, 550 and 560. Two properties are at 560 and the 52,030 is at 55. Are there in fact two different properties here? I don't have a map.
Purposes on many occasions, the realty address is different than the business assessment address.
Yes.
And this is an example of that.
So what you've done is you've folded in 560.
Yeah, because there's two. So because the buildings were also built in different times. So if you look at the realty perspective of this property, and let me just double check here. Yeah, you got 5 different buildings that were built on this property during the various years. And so with that being said, that would be the reason why there's a discrepancy in the addresses. The first building.
How would I know that, Merrick?
What's that?
How would I know that other than you just telling me? You haven't given us any evidence, yes?
Well, the point is it's during many appeals just throughout the history, there's a conflicting number of that. So there's a difference between the roll number of a realty roll number and a business assessment roll number. So if there's going to be a different roll number, there's going to be a different realty address on some occasions. Not always the case. It depends on the nature of the building.
Okay, this is unusual from my experience. Sorry about that.
Well, I could give you an example. I have a co-op gas bar on Dugald, where the property is on Mazenode, but the business assessment is on Dugald Road. Thank you, Nicole. I just got it right now.
I'll defer my questions. I see a map in the evidence from the applicant, so I'll ask my questions when we get to the applicant. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see.
And you can jump back in then at that time.
Yeah. Okay.
No further questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Froelich, I just have one quick question. So you said that you wanted to arrange an inspection, which unfortunately could not take place prior to this hearing. But I just noticed you're talking about the occupancy costs.
Yeah.
So on one part of this property, it's all 0. Is that the area that you're questioning?
I can't answer that question without doing an inspection.
Okay. All right, I thank you. Mr. Neufeld, if you would like to proceed with your brief.
Sure, thank you. The first page here, that's the assessment that's shown on the line on the left side there. So 550, 560, and 2 560s. This was inspected by other assessors in the past. It is unfortunate we couldn't inspect. I do apologize. Like Merrick said, obviously the workload is quite intense. It has been difficult to do them. Ideally, we would have. If you see, as you mentioned, the 12,251 square feet at 0 occupancy cost, this is a metal recycling plant. Essentially, they just store metal in there, and there's no, I think they have an extension cord for a light that comes from the 550 Messier last time I was there. On my second page, you can see both rolls, the zoomed in one there, that's 550 or 560. And then the bigger, larger one is 550. The second page is the second half of the second page there is our workups that were worked backwards to calculate what was applied. I think you can see very blurrily, excuse me, on the third page, the orders, and they had those caps applied. And the larger better building was 461 average and 227 average on the smaller one that's mostly unheated. Applying that backwards, we got to 381,690. I'm sorry to kind of blindside me, Eric. I apologize. I thought I did get our briefs. I didn't intend for that. I just saw this as we were $9,000 apart. I ideally don't want to have to appeal this. I think it should just be that flow through from realty and go to the 381,690, because that is the calculations that have already applied, and that's the areas that are currently on the assessment as well. And as far as I know, they are correct. If there was discrepancy, we can deal with it at that time, but I don't think there would be, and I don't think there's much reason to think there would be. So we would just ask that the current occupancy costs and the current area be applied to the assessment with the flow through of the realty as shown from the calculations. And to answer the earlier question, yeah, this is two titles, two different realty properties, but it's operated as one business. It's common for that. It does happen from time to time. It is a bit unusual, but it can. If it's the same business, the same operating business on two different properties, sometimes they do combine the roles, especially when they're next to each other like this. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Froelich, questions?
Well, see, this is okay. So what we have here, and let me just double check one thing here, which is why an inspection would make sense to me, because, and understanding here, this is a property here where we have two different realty roll numbers, but the BA has been combined, right? And so this does happen on occasion. And this one, I have a similar example that one of Ayrton's properties that had taken place on 575 Notre Dame, whereby we had at one point, the realty was different, but the BA was the same. In this situation, we have that exact same situation where the realty is different, but the BA is the same. And so for me, it's just trying to get my head around, like, looking at both of these properties, because the default position is to always go with what the agent says if we don't have better information, because the agent usually has the property owner has hired the agent to represent them at a board of revision hearing. And a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to inspect these properties. We may do it at one point when we put it onto the roll, but this property is a very old property. The initial property was built, I do believe, many years ago. I think, like, let's take a look here. Like, even though there's a building addition on one of the properties on 550 Messier, you got 5 different buildings. First building was built in 76, 76, 76, 95, and 20, and then 2013. So, and I understand, like, parts of it, because I've seen pictures of this. It's just that what I've done here is I want to get this right. And I have no problems having this combined moving forward. And I just realized until now, I always assumed that there were two different business assessments, and there's only one
question, Madam Chair. I'm waiting for a question from Mr. Froelich.
Yes, Mr. Froelich.
Well, the question, sorry, and I apologize for this. There are situations here whereby, you know what, I have no questions. I've made my request. No, honestly,
Okay.
there are discrepancies here that I don't understand, and I want to fix the problem. So, okay, I have no questions, Mr. Whitbread. Sorry for being long-winded here, but it's important to know the history of my thought process before I just act, and I'm sharing that with you today. So, no questions.
That's fine, Mr. Froelich. I understand this is a little bit of a jumble this morning on this property. Ms. Davidson, did you have any questions for Mr. Neufeld?
Yes, I just have one question. So prior to this hearing, did Colliers agree with the assessor to have an inspection jointly? Settle this?
Yeah, we definitely tried. We definitely tried to, and I was, like I said, I was hoping to. We just didn't have really the time to.
So there
But
was
we
an
would-
agreement to work this out with the assessor?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. We just kind of said that we would inspect it, and it never happened. And then I wouldn't say that we necessarily said we were going to work this out specifically. That you know, like the assessment, the current assessment is based on an old inspection. So it was inspected, and then obviously Merrick hadn't seen it, so he wanted to see it again. And I was trying to make that happen for him, but then it just never kind of happened. And I did find it odd that we were be increasing areas or using a higher rent in order for a short-term solution. I feel like it should be applied as is, and then we can resolve it if there's an issue after.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, you've just said that this property had been inspected at one point. Do you know when
Yeah.
that?
No, it was years ago.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it was like the current areas and occupancy costs were based on an inspection done probably, I want to say 5 years ago.
Okay. So did you actually work on this brief yourself?
I mean, I was in discussions with Bram as he was doing it. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't make the changes, I guess, but.
Oh, all right. But you didn't have a chance to discuss this with your father prior to this hearing. Is that my understanding?
No, I have, yeah. It just he didn't understand what Merrick was asking for. There was a cut, and he was happy with the large cut, but I didn't see that as. I felt like it was only half measure.
Okay. Mr. Froelich, I'm going to redirect to you.
Yeah, and I actually have some more information to share here.
All right.
So-
I just want to ask my question.
Okay, no problem. It's just
just in regards to your discussions with Mr. Neufeld Senior. This was done by email, I'm assuming.
I sent the email. I sent the summary of the email to the Board of Revision, and I had asked the Neufelds to call me, and Rocky Neufeld, Mr. Senior Neufeld, called me, and we discussed this, and I told him what my game plan was. What's interesting, though, what I've noticed here, if you look, and this is probably why we need to do the work here, because if you look at my area, and this is what's sort of odd here that as I'm going through this. So if no, that makes sense. 52,000.
Madam Chair, will I be given an opportunity to question the applicant as well?
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Whitbread. Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
Before
Whitbread.
Mr.
I
Froelich-
apologize.
Before Mr. Froelich gives more evidence, it would probably be good for me.
Yes, please
Okay.
go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. This seems to be a hodgepodge from the get-go.
Yes.
Mr. Neufeld, thank you. I mean, more of a point of clarification than anything with you. Thank you for the clarification that there is one business operating on two roll numbers. I appreciate that. I did not quite understand that. I now get it. And it appears to me that this is a pretty straightforward matter. There's a 74,556,000 square foot property based on 5 buildings on 2 lots. And the issues are rent and occupancy costs. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
I won't go into the detail, but in general sense, have I got that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
And we appear to be about $9,000 apart between you and Mr. Froelich with his recommendation.
Correct.
Are you understanding of that now that you have his evidence?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make that clear in my own mind.
That's fine. Thank you. And Mr. Froelich, you had something else to add?
Well, here's a question. If we look at Ayrton's brief here on page 2, if we add up all the areas, if we add the 52,430 and the 24,182, I come up with 76,612. If you look at what we have for the total premise of all the areas, we have 74,556. So there's a discrepancy of almost 2,000 square feet. So, like I said here, we need to clean this up, but there's a discrepancy, which is why, I feel that the recommendation I'm making here is fair based on everything that we need to realize here. There may be even a further reduction, but it's just right now, we're understanding the rent here. And what's also interesting about this, because if you look at my brief, like we have the unheated space with the lower rent of 12,000. We have 12,252, and Ayrton has the unheated space at 13,907. And so it's just, this is a unique property with issues. I had it when the property at 575 Notre Dame had a similar issue, and that took a lot of time to clean that up. And that's cleaned up now, and there's no issues moving forward on that. And maybe even moving forward, we should probably establish 2 different roll numbers for the 2 different businesses here. Because if we had 2 different bids, then we wouldn't have this problem.
May I comment on the math, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Froelich, I'm looking at page 1 of the evidence from Mr. Neufeld. And on the left side of the page, he has 3 different premise areas indicated. You see those 3 areas at 550 and 560 Messier?
Yeah.
They add up to 74,556.
Yeah.
So what you're suggesting is there's something different later in his evidence?
Well, yeah, then the next page, if you look at page 2,
Yeah.
if you add the 2 totals, so I'm just going to do it again here. If you have 52,430 plus 24,182, I have 76,612.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's from
there's
the realty
2,000.
assessment, correct?
Pardon me?
That's from the realty assessment.
That's from the realty assessment, but the BA and unless Ayrton, is there another subtenant in there that I don't know of?
No, not as far as I know.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Ayrton, I'm just trying to get this right.
Yeah, no, I understand. I honestly, I hadn't added the 2 together. I didn't notice the 2,000 square feet discrepancy. We've just been deferring to the assessment for all the areas. I just checked too, and I think the realty, we didn't disagree in the realty from what I can tell. For the larger building, I can't find the smaller brief. But looking at 550 Messier, the assessment's 52,430, and we use 52,430. So I mean, yeah, I guess obviously there is an area, discrepancy, but we've just deferred to the assessment in both cases, or all 3 cases, I guess.
Okay, I think we have heard from all the parties regarding this property. And we are going to move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for appearing this morning, Mr. Neufeld.
Yeah, I'm guess the rest of 51, aren't they? I'm all done. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, bye.
I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Okay, Mr. McCubbin. Madam Chair, is it okay if we affirm Mr. McCubbin now? Are you guys ready?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Howard Lindsay McCubbin.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. McCubbin.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, panel members and Ms. Merrick.
Good morning, Howard.
All right. Mr. Froelich, whenever you are ready, if you want to start us off on 625 Roseberry Street.
File numbers 22, 42, 97, Business roll number is 5387. The initial ARV roll value was 442,740, based on 67,745 square feet, with an overall ARV of $6.45. For the property using the same area, we have a base ARV of 451, utilizing 44,901 for heat, 67,745 for electricity, for water, and 15,000 for air conditioning. The applicant and I spoke about this property, and I'd like to make a joint recommendation of 423,360 based on the realty value that was used for the 15-1. The adjusted rent is 422. That concludes my presentation.
I thank you. Mr. McCubbin, are you ready? Are you accepting this recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We are accepting the recommendation.
I thank you. Ms. Davidson, did you have any questions in regards to this?
I have no questions, thank you.
And Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Froelich, just to confirm, this is following the real estate?
There was a 15-1 agreement for this property.
Thank you.
Do we have a new rent on this?
Mr. Whitbread, yes, did you have questions?
Oh, just you know, there's a new rent, Mr. Froelich.
Oh, what was that? I'm sorry.
Is there a new rent on the property to come to your new value?
Yeah, the rent's 422. It's on the form.
Thank you, I didn't see that. Okay, no further questions.
And we will now move on to 2520 Ferrier Street.
Lady Chairperson, the file number is 22-4265. The roll number is 2005. Initially, the ARV value was 333,540, based on 48,583 square feet, using an overall ARV of $6.87. Prior to about maybe yesterday afternoon, unfortunately, I had a doctor's appointment yesterday afternoon, and then Mr. McCubbin emailed me telling me that he had initially the position was that the agent was going to withdraw this, but after speaking with the owner had an issue with regards to the occupancy costs for the areas that we have. And so what happened is how I proposed to be a new value. And my position is that without inspection and doing the due diligence that's necessary for this, that we'd like to deal with this issue at a higher level. So what we have in place right now with regards to the rents, we have on premise number 2502, we have a premise area of 43,502, using a rent of $5.04, having areas of 43,502 for the heat, electricity, and water, and air conditioning on 1,280 square feet to come up with a total of the 313,200. And for the second PID, we have an area of 5,081 square feet, utilizing $2.70 and only using electricity at 5,091. What's important to realize for this property is that there's been a history of appeals for this property. And what I have here is I'll just go over the history of this, So on February 19th, 2020, I had taken this property to the municipal board, and we had made a joint recommendation on this, and we had utilized the area of heated space of 5,081. And so what ended up happening is, even though I made a recommendation, Altus had decided to take it to municipal board once again. Another point of contention was that this property was also at the municipal board in 2018. So moving forward from here, we did the percent change review, leaving the unheated space as it was. And for the 2018 municipal board COA, parties agreed to dropping the rental rate for one of the PIDs from $5.53 to $5. This is agreement based on the utility being a heavy manufacturing building. The composition of the building has been constructed over many years, and there's approximately 5,000 square feet of unheated space. The proposed assessed value was going to be reduced, and we have the history of the values here. And so we've been consistent with using 5,000 square feet. And Howard had sent me something with regards to the areas, but Howard, and I do apologize. I think I forgot to print out the workup that you had sent me with the new adjusted value, because I didn't see that for some reason. And so with that being said, I'm asking for this property be confirmed as it is right now. So if inspection can take place later on, because without inspection, we have a history of 5,000 square feet. And now if that has changed, we'd like to see it. Thank you.
All right, I thank you. Mr. McCubbin, questions?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. Mr. Merrick, you mentioned an appeal at the municipal board on February the 19th. Was that a realty appeal?
The one on February 19th, 2020. Well, that was the date I entered the notes in. The actual appeal date for that property was, just give me 1 sec here. This property has been appealed 11 times, and the 2020 appeal was on August 26th, 2022. So that's the COA, pardon me. That was the COA in 2020. The appeal for the realty was on January 6th, 2020, and the 2023 value was not appealed.
So the COA was with respect to the 2020 realty value?
Yeah, the COA. So what happened, here's the history. So for the 2020 appeal, the realty we made a recommendation of $4,729,000, and we reduced it to $4,219,000. And that was on January 6, 2020. And then subsequently there was a COA signed on August 26th, 2022.
Did you inspect the property for that appeal?
No, I did not.
Okay. With respect to the 2018 municipal board appeal, was that a realty appeal also?
That was a realty appeal.
And was that settled by a COA or?
That was settled by a COA.
Pardon me?
That was settled by a COA.
Okay, and the property, was it inspected at that time?
We don't have any inspection listed from the records that I see. And just because when I dealt with this, let me just check one thing, Howard, Mr. McCubbin. Yeah, we have no pictures on file with regards to the inspection of this property.
Those are all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
I thank you. Ms. Davidson
I have no questions at this time.
and Mr. Whitbread.
I have none, thank you.
I also have no questions. Mr. McCubbin,
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair.
I don't,
Sorry?
I was just going to say, I don't see a brief for you.
No, I did not submit a brief, Madam Chair. The intent was, as Mr. Merrick said, to withdraw the appeal. But in communication, I had difficulty reaching our client, but I did so yesterday afternoon, as Mr. Merrick said. And we reached the client by email, and I provided rebuttal evidence, Madam Chair, in the form of the income and expense statements, and this is specifically, we're not disputing the rent, Madam Chair. We're disputing the cost to occupy, the occupancy costs. And so I submitted the income and expense statements from 2020 as rebuttal evidence. I also submitted a couple of photographs I'd like to enter as evidence.
Okay, so I just moved that over to the SharePoint. I emailed it to you, Mr. Froelich, and I'm just about to move it to you, Ms. Davidson. Thank you.
All right.
There's two documents.
Oh, I guess it's the second one.
Yeah, the first one labeled Lehigh Hansen are the photographs,
Okay.
and the other one is
Thank you.
for the same property.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Carnegie. Does everybody have the rebuttal evidence?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Mr. McCubbin, if you would like to speak to this.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So,
Actually, sorry, Mr. McCubbin. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay, again, this is just rebuttal to, this is not evidence per se. This is just rebuttal to the assessor. The onus is on the assessor to prove that the, I guess, the RV is correct. As I've said, Madam Chair, we do not disagree with the rent and the net rent placed on the properties. However, after communication with the client, of note, if you look at the rebuttal evidence with respect to the costs for occupancy, and that would be, sorry, the pages are not numbered. It would be one, two. It would be the page where it shows the annual income and the annual expenses, Madam Chair, that I will refer to in the income and expense statements. If you look at that page, you will see that there was hydro reported for the property at $44,302, a significant amount. And that is specifically for hydro with respect to the production that takes place on the property. There are no heating costs associated with this property, Madam Chair. As you can see within the annual expenses, the heating slash ventilation slash air conditioning was left out. It's our understanding that the $44,302 is specifically for production and not for latent heat within the property as generally charged by the property assessment department. So also, if you look at the photographs, which is item 2 of the rebuttal, you will see the building. Essentially, the doors are always open within these properties. They produce, Lehigh is a division of, sorry, not Lehigh, but yeah, Lehigh Hansen is a division of Inland Cement, which is, I believe, owned and operated by Heidelberg Materials. They're all 3 related companies here, and they produce cement for the construction industry. Lehigh has a plant on McGilvery, I do believe. And in the photographs, you can see inland cement. You can see the photographs with the doors open and the product. It's they produce on the ground infrastructure, drainage, sewer, and water pipes. And the photograph below, you can see somewhat of a shed. And I believe that's the building that's around 5,000 square feet that's reportedly unheated. But it's our contention, Madam Chair, that the entire facility is relatively unheated with the exception of the office area. The production of the products drives the heat within this property. So there are no sort of overhead heating systems or anything to do with heating in regards to this manufacturing facility. So we'd ask that the amount be taken out of the ARV. I don't think it's necessary to really inspect this property. As you've heard, Madam Chair, that the value which is more significant than the business assessment has been reached, certificate agreements signed without inspection. So rather than to kick this down the road, we'd like to get this matter dealt with. If that's okay, and the board may make an appropriate decision. And that's my presentation with respect to the rebuttal evidence. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. Froelich, did you have any questions?
I have two questions. Do you have a workup to show us the breakdown with regards to the areas?
I hesitate to put forward any evidence at this point in time, but I can give verbal evidence. I can tell you I did remove from record one the premise area being 43,502 square feet. I did remove the heating costs associated with that premise area and rounded the numbers. So that premise area, the premise annual rental value was 313,200. My new calculation rounded is $286,560, going by the rounding rules. So when I added 286,560 to record two, which we do not have a problem with, which is the 5,081 square feet, record two, the total ARV is $20,340. The new ARV is $306,900.
Okay, so what's the area for heat on premise number 2502? So there's no heat. Did you put one for that property?
If there are any heating associated with this property, Madam Chair, it would be for the 1,280 square foot building, which is an attachment, an office area.
Okay, so
So that,
to me, that doesn't answer my question though, because if you're okay with the 1,280 square feet, that's why I'm asking for specifics with regards to the areas used for PID number 2502. What is the area for the heat? I'm assuming that the electrical is not changing. What is the occupancy cost for the water? And then subsequently for the air conditioning.
so for the air conditioning, we agreed a 1,280 square foot office is air conditioned, and that's at 35 cents. That would also be heated too, Madam Chair. And I neglected to do that. So that would be the portion of that 43,502 square feet building that would be heated. That's the only portion that's heated.
And the water would be the 12,080 as well?
The water, that would be included, yes.
Okay.
Water for the entire facility, actually.
Water for the whole facility? Okay.
Yes. Hydro for the entire facility. Just the heating, we have some concerns about.
Okay, by any chance, did you look at the income and expense mailer history in 2017 for this property?
No, I did not.
Okay, because in 2017, and I have it for the panel members if they wish to receive it as rebuttal evidence, I'm showing heat, vent, and air conditioning of a bill of $76,416. And so there's a discrepancy between the 2017 mailer in terms of heat and what we have on the 2020 mailer.
Madam Chair, and I really don't want to get into a discussion here, but you know,
Yes.
I think that this is not the time for discussion, but with respect to that, I can only say that that was reported in the wrong line. That's a tremendous amount of hydro for heating only. It's all production.
Well,
All right. Mr. Froelich, did you have any more questions?
Well, yeah, my question is a continuation of that because the hydro from 2017 was 38,488. And now the natural extension for hydro for 2020 is 44,302. So that doesn't seem to be an unreasonable increase.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I didn't look at the 2015 mailer, but the point is the 2017 mailer has 76,416. And which is why I'm forwarding the recommendation to confirm the assessed value so we can move forward because
Madam Chair, I can't comment on anything that's not presented here today, so.
Yeah.
well, but this was
Okay, Mr. Froelich, do you have another question?
no other questions. Thank you.
All right, I thank you. Ms. Davidson, did you have any questions to Mr. McCubbin?
I do have a question. So I just want to be clear. So you're proposing a 306,900 ARV by removing 44,302 from the calculations on the occupancy cost?
By removing $26,101.
So you're removing 26,000.
26,000.
And what?
26,000. Yeah. In that presentation, I removed the I guess it doesn't show on Mr. The actual calculation. It doesn't show on the actual costs. Well,
But you're asking for an ARV of 306,900, right?
that is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you got there by, you said to adjust the occupancy cost by how much for what?
26,000. I'm adjusting the occupancy cost of reducing it by $26,101. And when I did my recalculation and rounded the numbers, it came up to 286,560 for, if you look, and I will point you to Mr. Merrick's brief, the ID 2502 premise ID, the first one on the line where it says 313,200. So that would be reduced from 313,200 to 286,560.
Okay, so you're.
And then adding in the $20,340 below to arrive at 306,900.
And that's so I'm sort of slow on this. So on the occupancy costs, you adjusted the heat or the electricity?
The heating only.
Okay, that's.
There, it's electrified. It's an electrified building, just the heating costs. And our contention, you can see hydro is still left in there. The building is wired. So hydro is left in there. It's just specifically the heating we're removing from our calculation, from the calculation. Yes.
So did you have any more evidence, since you're reducing the occupancy costs beyond the income and expense mailer and the photos? Like, did you have any heating bills or any other evidence to bring to this to, you know?
No, I
defend your
don't, Madam
reaction?
Chair. I just have what I presented here.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread.
I have no questions. Thank you.
I also have no questions.
Could I just ask for like a 5-minute recess, just so I could do the mathematical calculations based on Mr. McCubben's information, just to make sure that the math is correct? I'm just working through this right now, so.
Okay, it is 10 o'clock, so we will take a very quick.
Thank you. I
5-minute break.
appreciate that.
All right, I thank you, and I would like to call this meeting back to order. And we are going to resume on our property, 2520 Ferrier Street. And I believe, Mr. Froelich, you wanted to give us some numbers.
Yeah, I just want to confirm the numbers are correct with Mr. Howard. Is Howard there?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so Howard, so just to confirm, for the new revised number that you've calculated here, for the 43,502 square feet, you only have electrical at 43,560. And 1280 for air conditioning. Do you have anything for and 0 for heat and water?
No. If I may, Madam Chair, and it's just to have the board have an understanding of what's happening here. I did recalculate the numbers. In my previous calculation, it did not include heating for the 1,280 square foot office that's attached to this complex. So now I've applied a heating to that office. So I would like to make this somewhat more clear. So when you look at heating with respect to the 43,502 square feet, the only heating costs we have associated with that square footage is 1,280 square feet at 60 cents a square foot, which gives us $768. So to that, that's the heat only for this property. To that, we would add the 56,553 for hydro for the entire premise area of 43,502. That's 43,502 at $1.30 equals 56,553. And then water, again, for the entire premise of 43,502 square feet at 25 cents a square foot would give us a value of 10,876. And finally, air conditioning only for the office space of 1,280 square feet at 35 cents a square foot, which is 448. So in totality, the heating or the cost to occupy the premise area of 43,502, in our view, Madam Chair, should be 68,645 when you add those numbers up. So 68,645 added to the rent, which is not in dispute, of 219,250. We arrive at a value, Madam Chair, of 287,895. When you add those two numbers and to using the rounding rules, it would be 287,760. Ending in a 0 or 5. So 287,760 from the 313,200. So 287,760, we add that is added with 20,340, which is premise ID 28,741 in the assessor's brief. The annual rental value of 20,340. We arrive now at a total ARV of 308,100. And that's with the heating component removed from the 43,502 square feet, with the exception of the office area.
So what's your number again, Howard?
308,100 in total.
Okay. Okay. We're
And that's following the
See,
rounding.
the only question I have is how could you have water without heat? Because wouldn't the water freeze if the building wasn't heated?
Well, as I've stated before, Madam Chair, there's a process that takes place in this building, and it's the production process. There are no heaters per se within this building that heat
There's water.
the facility in its entirety. There's a production process. Also, when concrete is curing, it gives off heat. So there's latent heat within the property itself, Madam Chair.
Okay. I understand your position. And so I'm glad we got the number right. Because $307,000 is a lot different than $286,000. My preference is that an inspection would take place so we could have a better understanding of the process. And I have no further questions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McCubbin, does anybody have any questions? Panel members, Ms. Davidson, Mr. Whitbread?
I have none.
For me,
Thank you.
thanks.
I have none. And Mr. McCubbin, did you have a wish for a summation?
Madam Chair, I would ask that the annual rental value be reduced to $308,100. I don't see any need to inspect the property. This is VA. Realty has been done without an inspection. That's my presentation. Thank you.
All right, I thank you both. Okay, we will move on to item number 9 on the docket, 101 Rockman Street. Mr. Froelich, whenever you are ready.
File number is 22-4161. File business ID number is 52094. The initial value was $1,084,920, utilizing 188,260 square feet, with an overall ARV of $5.76 square feet. For the rental rate used for the entire square footage of the area is $357. The entire area is heated with electricity and water, and we only have $23,145 for air conditioning. The occupancy costs are $412,860, and the ARV value is $1,094,920. We'd like to recommend to reduce the value to $1,024,680. It's based on the realty rent used for the 2023 appeal, and this value was agreed upon by the agent via email. Thank you.
I thank you. Mr. McCubbin, are you in agreement with this recommendation?
Yes, we are, Madam Chair.
I thank you. Ms. Davidson, did you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And Mr. Whitbread, did you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have no questions. We will now move on to 531 Goldsby. And Mr. Froelich, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lady Chairperson. File number is 22-4237. Business ID number is 5190. And we have a total ARV value of $1,111,140, utilizing an area of 172,354, and an overall ARV of rent per square foot of $3.45. The premise area that we are using for this property is 172,354, using a rent of $428. The entire area for heat, electricity, and water is 172,354, and the air conditioned portion is 8,250. The total occupancy cost is 373,449, and our total ARV is 1,111,140. If you look at page 2, we have some similar properties that are in the neighborhood that are similar in size to the subject property. We have, they're located on Redwood and Fife and on Sony Place. Areas range between $100,000 to $228,000. The wall heights range between 22 and 34 feet. And the effective age is between 1968 and 1990. Some of these buildings are newer buildings with higher ceiling heights, and the rents are a lot higher than what we have here right now. The rental range that we have is between $450 to $653, and I do have an update. The rent on Sony Place has been updated since the last cycle, and the current rent for the property on on Sony Place is now $6.33. On page 3, you got some pictures of the subject property. On page 4, the property is located in the northeast quadrant of the city of Winnipeg, in between Raleigh and Watt, and in between Monroe and Kimberley. On page 5, what we have some additional pictures of the office portion of the building. Page 6, we have some additional pictures. Page 7, we're showing the manufacturing process. And the same can be seen on page 8 and 9 and 10. That concludes my formal presentation, and thank you for your time. I am open to questions.
Thank you. Mr. McCubbin, questions?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Froelich, turning your attention to page 2, what would be your best comparison on that page, the subject?
Well, if we're looking at the wall height of the building here per se, our wall height just give me 1 sec here because I thought I had it and now I cannot find it. 630 Gillespie. Thank you. So we're looking at the wall heights for the building, and to answer your question, and thank you for your patience, I'd probably say the best comparable would be either 1750 Inkster, built in 1970, has a wall height of 22 feet. Subject property's wall height is between 12 to 21 feet. And the rental rate is $5.17, and we're utilizing $4.27.
That's the only question I have, Madam Chair.
I thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I just have 2 short questions. What's the age of the subject property?
Well, we haven't inspected this property, but based on the pictures, the original building was built in 1958. But if you look at some of the pictures of the building, it's not brand new, but I think it's newer than 1958. So this is something that we'd have to do an adjustment on moving forward.
Okay,
let me just bear with me for 1 sec here. I just want to check something, if you do not mind. There's 2 buildings in this property. First portion was built in 1958. Second portion, 1958. So the original building is 1958. And there were some alterations that have taken place for this building in 2023, where there's been some improvements to this property. Just a permit was taken out on January 12th, 2023.
Okay, thank you.
But we have
And then
not
my-
inspected this property recently.
Okay, and then my other question was, are these properties classified the same, like are they heavy manufacturing as well, your comps, like used for the same
Well,
type of manufacturing?
yeah, well, my comparables are mostly warehouses, but the bricks and mortar are usually the same. And unfortunately, due to the size of this building, there's like usually larger manufacturing plants would be owner occupied. So there's not a lot of manufacturing plants that are with market rents out there. So a good comparison would be warehousing space, because the bricks and mortar of the building would be the same.
So is it typical then for these kinds of heavy manufacturing, whether they're owner occupied, to typically be comped with warehouses?
Yeah, well, because of the lack of market rents, because usually the large manufacturing processes are owner occupied. I'm thinking with the new Flyers, the Versatiles, the MCIs, those type of properties, and even with regards to like the egg producing plant that's on Pandora, which would be manufacturing as well. Usually those type of properties are owner occupied, so we use warehousing as comparables for this property, because there are no 100,000-foot manufacturing properties that are leased out.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Mr. Whitbread,
I have no questions. Thank you.
I just have one quick question, Mr. Froelich. You indicated that this building has a built date of 1958.
Yes.
Does it have an effective age?
No, it doesn't. You know what? Just bear with me here. No, if it had an effective age, it would show on the 2020 brief that I had created.
Okay.
So it does not.
All right, I thank you. Mr. McCubbin, if you would like to give us your brief.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If you could turn your attention to page 2 of my brief, please. The applicant is Graphic Packaging International, Inc. The premise address is 531 Goldsby Street. This is actually a light manufacturing facility, Madam Chair, not a heavy manufacturing facility. It would be considered light. So there's no real load on the floor and no real heavy manufacturing process that takes place in this building. The roll number is 51890. The year built was 1958, Madam Chair, and it still stands as a 1958 building. However, the interior of the office would have been updated over time. But the office and the major part of this structure is still the same as it was in 1958. It's a well-built building. The premise area, Madam Chair, we're in agreement with of 172,354. That's 172,354 square feet. The site area is 590,244 square feet. We're asking that the annual rental value be reduced to $1,019,760. On page 4, Madam Chair, just a brief description of the property. You can see its relative location on Goldsby Street. You see in the first paragraph, the subject is best described as a light manufacturing and warehouse storage facility. Quite a bit of storage takes place in this building, just dead storage. It was built in 1958 of masonry construction. It, however, with the exception of the office able it has a reported wall height of 19 feet, but it's only usable, the only height, Madam Chair, that's usable is 14 feet. That's the usable height because of the slab positioning and the elevated slab within this light manufacturing facility. So it's an elevated slab. The outside dimension can be considered 19 feet, but the inside usable area, Madam Chair, is only 14 feet. So it has rather low ceiling heights. As you can see from the assessor's photographs in the facility, you can see looking at the photographs with that the assessors provided, you can see how low the ceilings are. It's not your typical warehouse situation. Turn to page six of my presentation. The assessor has applied a base rent of $4.28 per square foot, which we're disputing, Madam Chair. We're not disputing any of the occupancy costs on this property. I've provided, because of the sheer size of this building, I've only provided 3 comparisons, Madam Chair. All within the range of the subject property. The first one on Sherwin Road, built between 1964 and 86. 175,000 square feet, sorry, is the leasable area. And you see the relative lease start and lease end dates with a rate of $340 per square foot and wall height of 16 feet to 24 feet. The second one is on Barmac Road. It's relatively new compared to the subject property, 1990. And that's 161 square feet. Sorry, 161,164 square feet, with a lease starting on February of 2014 and lease ending February of 2029. And the relative net rent per square foot is $615. And this has a fairly large ceiling height also of 25 feet and a high land to building ratio. The third property in Berry Street is built closer to the age of the subject property, Madam Chair. It's 148,709 square feet. And we have a lease start September of 2016, sorry. With lease end of August of 2036. And it rents for $2 a square foot and 21 feet ceiling height with a relative land to building ratio of 1.48. And that's also zoned industrial. So looking at those 3 comparisons, we feel that a rent of no more than $3.75 per square foot should be applied to the premise area, Madam Chair. We attempted to appeal this property for realty purposes, but were unable to because of administrative reasons. We did not receive the authorization until after the deadline. However, we were able to appeal the business assessment with respect to this property. And that's why we're here today. So the base rent calculated using $375 annual base rent would be $646,328. And if I can turn your attention to page 7, Madam Chair, to that we would add the costs, which we are in agreement with. And the total ARV rounded would be $1,019,760. And we ask for the value to be reduced to that amount. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Froelich, questions?
Yeah, just one question. For comparable number 3, you're using a rental rate of $2 for 148,000 square feet. Were there any other comparables that were a similar size at 820 Berry that you could have used?
Madam Chair, I'm only going to deal with what I presented here today, and I'm not going to sort of enter into a discussion about what may or may not have been used. So I can only answer what I presented here, Madam Chair.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
So yes or no, are you aware of a lease of 125,576 that's at $5.65 a square foot?
Madam Chair, again, I'm not going to comment on any.
I just asked for a yes or no answer, please.
I'm not going to even answer that question, Madam Chair.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And Mr. Whitbread?
Just quickly, would you please just review the tenancy type What are these three buildings used for? I know you said light manufacturing. Can you just explain a little bit more detail?
It's my understanding, Madam Chair, that it's used for printing and packaging.
All
Some
three of them?
light- Pardon me?
All three of the buildings? Your comparables.
Oh, sorry, the comparisons. Oh, sorry, the comparisons. No, I'm sorry. If you look at they're all presented in my evidence, the photographs of the comparisons. It's my understanding they're all warehouses, Madam Chair.
So it is warehousing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And would
Yeah.
you agree at this size that economies of scale, sorry. Would you agree at this size, square footage, that economies of scale would kick in versus a building at 100,000, 110,000?
Oh, absolutely. All things being equal, economy of scale would kick in with everything being equal. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thanks.
Thank you. My questions have been asked and answered. Does either party have a wish for a summation on this property?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm okay, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right. All the items have been heard on our docket this morning. And this hearing is now closed. And I thank you, Mr. Froelich and Mr. McCubbin, for your briefs, your time and patience this morning.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to let me figure out the math on the previous property. I really appreciate that.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.